Hey, that's crazy. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Moderately Educated News Network. It's me, your boy Steph, here with my man Xavier Dukes. Lovely co-host as usual. Today, guys, we're going to be giving you a quick election update on the polls, what's going on in these swing states that will decide the election.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Do you have any polls that you could send me directly in the chat that you would want pulled up?
We can just go off of 538.
538. All right, sounds good. Is that the one with state by state?
Yeah.
Okay, 538. National presidential polls. All right.
So it'll be at the top of the page. And then you can just basically scroll and we can go through the swing states, if that makes sense. That's for Senate. Yeah, the top. Okay. So a lot of
That's
these
interesting.
polls in these swing states, guys, they are extremely close, but 538 is typically very accurate in terms of predicting who's going to win what state usually. So if we go and look, these polls are updated as of today, September 25th, 2024. In Georgia, currently we have Trump winning by 1 point. That, of course, is still within the margin of error. We have in Pennsylvania, which a lot of people are saying could potentially decide the election. We have uh, Kamala leading by 1 point, which also is within the margin of error. In Pennsylvania is very interesting because 69% of likely voters have placed the economy as their biggest issue, and a lot of them favor Trump more than Kamala on it. But the state in the past, I believe since 1976, so in the past, give or take 48 years, they have voted for a Democrat 8 times and a Republican 4 times. So it's definitely something to keep in mind. We also have in Arizona, it's Trump up by a point, which also is within the margin of error. As you can see, this is a reoccurring theme with everything being within the margin of error for polling. So it's literally a race that's too close to call. So if you're thinking that your vote does not matter, it absolutely unequivocally does. So make sure to make your voice heard through the polls. In Wisconsin, it looks like Kamala's up by 2 in these most recent updates, which is a huge drop off from where she was prior in terms of polling and basically past polls before the debate. And same in Michigan, also Kamala by 2. But once again, both of these are also within the margin of error as well. So yeah, we're definitely looking for a close race. Florida has definitely been more leaning Republican lately. And then North Carolina, I believe, is still being favored by Trump as well. I know it's a swing state that some are saying Democrats could win this year, but Trump still has a lead in North Carolina as well, albeit a 1 point lead that's within the margin of error. So yeah, that is a quick poll update. Xavier, do you have any questions or comments that you want to make on these polls?
Um, yeah, so in terms so it looks like Harris is overall favored by 2.5% or so. Um, yeah, it we'll see how things end up turning out. I believe that a lot of the time, I guess the strength of Democratic sentiment isn't always captured in polling data. I think then we typically have a lot more quiet voters, and then they all, hopefully end up turn out to the polls or something like that. Or unfortunately, we do sometimes discourage Democratic voters from attending the polls, especially if we are seen having too much of a lead. But I think ultimately, yeah, those seem relatively accurate. Here, I'm looking at various, this appears to be other polls. So from Reuters, The Economist, CBS News, and some of these have Harris up at plus 7, which just seems a bit ridiculous. But yeah, it looks like the consensus is probably going to settle around a 3 to 4 point favoring of Harris, and I guess which is somewhat represented in 538's polling data, and about a 2.5 or 2.7 favoring for Harris. So a little bit more on the conservative side, conservative in the estimation, not the political alignment. But yeah, this is from what is this? This is from NBC. Okay. Of this was 1,000 people that were surveyed, showing a 5% gap for Harris. And I believe this was, oh, and then this is the Economist poll, of course, that was referenced on 538 with the 4.5 to 5% lead for Harris. So yeah,
And one thing I would say, oh,
yeah, it's a close race. Definitely show up, make your voices heard, and I'll let you say what you're gonna say.
so ironically, I have to disagree with you. I think Democrat sentiment is very much heard. There is someone on X who actually studies who's being polled, and in a lot of the polls, like the ones that are up like 7 points, they are polling primarily Democrats. So versus registered Republicans. So that's definitely something to look out for because you have polls in the past. Let's take 2016, for example, guys. You have Hillary Clinton leading by double digits in the polls at the same point in the election cycle. And she got absolutely gobsmacked. So Biden as well also had way bigger leads, and that election was close as well. So it's definitely something that needs to be looked at by Kamala's administration. It's like, okay, Hillary is way higher in the polls, and so is Biden, because typically polling it tends to lean a little bit left in terms of favorability. The voices are more so heard by the left. Media is in mass controlled by the left. There's not a lot of right wing news outlets, I would say. So realistically, the conservative voices are heard at the ballot box. For example, 2016, Hillary thought she had it won. Every single news station, CNN, MSNBC, ABC, you can literally go Google this right now. Go YouTube it. Every single one of them said Trump had 0% chance of winning, that Hillary was going to be the first female president, and she got destroyed. What is your response to that?
Yeah, unfortunately, Democrats, due to our system, we often win the popular vote, but can't take it home in the electoral college because of the distribution. The distribution for certain red states is seemingly, hate to call it unfair, but unfair. I think whereas like the however many delegates are assigned to California represent on average like 250,000 people, whereas the one that represents Wyoming represents 150 million people. I mean, sorry, 150,000 people, versus 500,000 people per delegate in California. So it's not exactly like scaled perfectly amongst red states, which typically do have smaller populations. Which, you could argue that the current electoral system doesn't accurately capture the voices of the people to some degree. So maybe some reform or a more wholesome
Would
idea.
you want it to be a straight popular vote?
I did not say that. No, that's why I initially led with the redistribution of electorates and representatives based off maybe like a common scaling factor of a state, or like if a state could have zero point 0.6 representatives as opposed to an entire delegate, and having some sort of weighted average there may be a little bit more appropriate. So each person in the population of states is accurately represented more so than it is now. But yeah.
Interesting. I mean, it's interesting, really, because California and New York are going to start losing, uh, electoral power as more people trickle out of the state in the millions. But we'll see what happens with that. That actually might make Texas and Florida more blue, but I'm not particularly sure.
Yeah,
Might
and
make it red, might make it more blue.
Austin. So yeah, we need them to spread out into rural Texas and start flipping all those counties out there too.
That's crazy work. But Yeah, guys, if you agree or disagree with anything that we said, make sure to leave a comment and I'll let the lovely Xavier give final opinions and close us out.
Cool. Yeah. Well, just want to say thank you guys for your time and attention. Listening to us ramble on about things that we are only moderately educated on. It's been a pleasure. Yapping at you fellas and ladies, if you're here in the audience. I doubt it, but hey. YouTube appeals to a primarily male demographic, so I ain't mad at you. So go sis. That being said, everybody make sure your voices are heard at the ballot box, no matter where you are, and especially if you're in those key swing states. So that being said, again, thank you for your time, and thank you for all that lovely information, Stefan. That being said, adios.
Go, sis.